Marcus Hale stepped closer to me in the courthouse corridor, invading my space like he owned the air between us. I could smell his cologne, sharp, expensive, deliberate. He only wore that scent on days he wanted to feel untouchable. "This is the best day of my life," he said quietly, confidence dripping from every word. "By sunset, I'll have taken everything you have." He smiled as if the ending had already been signed and sealed. Standing just behind him was Elena Cross, his assistant, his secret, his prize. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her smile spoke for her. Smooth, certain, cruel. People moved past us without slowing. Lawyers clutching files. Clerks rushing between rooms. Strangers carrying disasters of their own. No one noticed the private war unfolding in that narrow hallway. Marcus straightened his jacket and looked down at me the way someone looks at property. "The apartment is mine," he continued. "The accounts are mine. You should have accepted the settlement when I was being generous." I said nothing. That silence bothered him more than tears ever could. He wanted fear. He wanted pleading. He wanted proof that I was already broken. Instead, I stood calm, hands folded, breathing steady. "You were always quiet, Ava," he went on, almost amused. "Quiet women don't win in court. My lawyer is ruthless. Yours looks like he should have retired 10 years ago." Elena shifted beside him, crossing her arms just enough for the bracelet on her wrist to catch the light. "Gold. Blue stone. The same one." Marcus leaned closer, lowering his voice. "After today, you'll have no home, no leverage, no future." That was when my attorney stepped beside me. Mr. Leonard Crowe didn't raise his voice. He didn't rush. He simply turned his head slightly and asked me one question. "Did you bring everything we discussed?" For the first time, I looked directly at Marcus and met his eyes. "Yes," I said evenly. "Exactly as you instructed." Mr. Crowe nodded once. Then he looked at Marcus, calm and composed. "In that case," he said, "I suggest you prepare yourself. Today may be illuminating." Marcus laughed. He had no idea the lesson had already begun. I have never been the kind of woman who fills a room with noise. I fill it with order. For most of my life, I worked quietly in the background, making sure numbers lined up, deadlines were met, and problems disappeared before anyone else even noticed them. That was my strength. And it was also the reason Marcus never saw me coming. To him, I was useful, reliable, invisible. Whenever someone asked what I did for a living, Marcus usually answered for me. "She works from home," he'd say. "Some accounting stuff. Nothing major." The way he said it shrank my work into something small. Forgettable. In reality, I managed financial records for 3 mid-sized companies, all from a laptop balanced on our dining table. I tracked tax schedules, insurance renewals, investment reports. I was the reason our life ran smoothly, even when Marcus forgot everything else. But because I didn't wear heels or boast at dinner parties, he assumed I had no real value. After we married, I put my career on pause to support his. I moved when his job demanded relocation. I took on extra freelance contracts so he could chase promotions. I believed marriage meant teamwork, even when the weight wasn't shared equally. Marcus mistook patience for weakness. At social gatherings, he joked that he was the provider and I handled the home. People laughed. I smiled. No one asked who actually managed the money. No one questioned who made sure we never missed a payment. Quiet people observe more than they speak. And I noticed everything. I noticed when Marcus started coming home later. I noticed expenses creeping upward without explanation. I noticed affection being replaced by distraction. I didn't accuse. I watched. And while he thought nothing was changing, the truth was already forming, slowly, silently. The moment everything broke wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No slammed doors. It was a rainy Tuesday. The kind that made the apartment feel heavier than usual. I was standing in our bedroom, holding one of Marcus's suit jackets. He'd left it draped over a chair, wrinkled and forgotten. I planned to take it to the cleaners, like always. Out of habit, I checked the pockets. Marcus had a habit of stuffing important things everywhere, receipts, cards, random notes. If I didn't check, something valuable would be lost. My fingers brushed against a folded piece of thick paper tucked into the inner pocket. I unfolded it. A receipt. From a luxury jewelry boutique downtown. The total made me sit down on the edge of the bed. $4,850. The date was yesterday. The time, 2:17 p.m. Yesterday at 2:17, Marcus had texted me that he was stuck in meetings and would be home late. He promised we'd watch a movie together. Instead, he'd been buying jewelry. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. What I felt was colder than panic. I opened my phone and searched Elena Cross. It took less than 2 minutes. Her most recent post showed a manicured hand holding a champagne glass inside a luxury car. On her wrist, gold bracelet. Blue stone. The caption read, "Unforgettable." In that quiet bedroom, surrounded by a life I thought was solid, something inside me went completely still. The marriage was over. But the accounting had just begun. I didn't cry. I didn't wake Marcus. I didn't confront him. I opened my laptop. Emotions create noise. Numbers create clarity. I created a new file and named it something only I would ever see. Balance. And then I started working. I didn't sleep that night. Marcus came home after midnight, smelling like hotel soap and confidence. He slipped into bed beside me as if nothing in the world had shifted. His breathing slowed quickly. He slept easily. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of a man who believed he was untouchable. By morning, I had already decided something important. I wasn't going to confront him. Confrontation gives people time to lie. Evidence gives them nowhere to hide. I waited until Marcus left for work. I watched his car disappear from the parking lot. Only then did I move. The dining table became my command center. I logged into our shared accounts first, checking savings, credit cards. Marcus had always assumed I didn't pay attention to those things anymore. He thought money simply appeared when needed. He was wrong. I pulled statements from the last 3 years. Every transaction. Every transfer. Patterns don't scream. They whisper. At first, it was small things. Restaurants charged during work hours. Ride services late at night. Gifts purchased in places Marcus had never mentioned visiting. Then the numbers grew bolder. Hotel bookings. Flights. Jewelry. Always timed around business trips. The math didn't match his salary. That's when I opened my own records. Every month, I transferred money to Marcus to help with expenses. Mortgage. Utilities. Insurance. I'd always written clear memos. At the time, they felt insignificant. Now they were anchors. I created folders. Income. Expenses. Gifts. Travel. And then one more. Elena. By the end of the day, I wasn't looking at a marriage anymore. I was looking at a financial operation. Marcus wasn't just cheating on me. He was funding another life with money I had helped earn, save, and protect. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. This wasn't heartbreak. This was theft. For weeks, I lived in 2 realities inside the same apartment. In front of Marcus, I stayed the same woman he believed he controlled. I cooked dinner. I asked about his meetings. I nodded when he talked about projects I knew were lies. He never noticed anything different. Why would he? In his mind, I was still background noise. But when he left for work or fell asleep beside me, I became someone else. I turned the small storage room near the kitchen into a private office. That's where I worked at night, surrounded by spreadsheets, bank statements, and printed records. That's where the truth sharpened. The apartment was the first major asset I investigated. Years earlier, I had inherited a large sum from my grandmother. Marcus had convinced me it made sense to use it for the down payment. He said it would be easier if the funds passed through his account. I trusted him. Trust leaves a paper trail. I traced every dollar. The money came from my inheritance. It went into Marcus's account, then directly to the developer. The amount matched exactly. Not a single dollar came from Marcus. The mortgage told the same story. Every month, I transferred the payment to him so he could make the official transaction himself. I thought I was supporting his pride. In reality, I was documenting ownership. Then I found something worse. Large transfers to betting platforms. Thousands at a time. Always after bonuses. Always after successful quarters. Marcus wasn't careless. He was reckless. By the end of the month, I had something far more powerful than anger. I had evidence. I didn't choose the first lawyer I found. I chose strategy. A former colleague gave me a name, Leonard Crow. His office was small. Quiet. Shelves of law books instead of motivational posters. No fake smiles. I placed my folder on his desk and spoke. I didn't cry. I didn't complain. I explained everything like a financial report. Crow listened without interrupting. When I finished, he opened the folder. Minutes passed. Finally, he looked up. "You didn't come here for comfort," he said. "You came to finish something." I nodded. He closed the folder carefully. "You have enough here to walk away with what's yours. Possibly more. But only if we let him believe he's already won." Marcus filed for divorce 2 weeks later. He was generous on paper. confident in person. He believed I was desperate. He was wrong again. On the morning of the hearing, Marcus arrived smiling, Elena beside him like a trophy he expected to display openly soon. They looked like a future. I looked like a problem he had already solved. That illusion wouldn't last long. The courtroom was colder than the hallway outside it. Not just the temperature, the atmosphere. Heavy, watchful, as if the walls themselves were waiting to see who would break first. Marcus walked in like a man arriving at an award ceremony. His suit was perfectly tailored. His hair was styled with care. Confidence sat on his shoulders like armor. Elena followed him, dressed too boldly for a courtroom, but exactly right for someone who wanted to be noticed. She didn't look at me once. I was already seated beside Leonard Crowe. Marcus barely spared me a glance. To him, I was already finished. His attorney stood first. He was loud, polished, certain of his performance. He spoke of Marcus as the provider, the achiever, the man who carried the weight of the marriage. He described me as someone who stayed home, benefited quietly, and now wanted more than I deserved. As he spoke, Marcus nodded occasionally, as if listening to a story he'd written himself. I didn't react. I didn't need to. Crowe rose slowly when it was our turn. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He simply opened my folder. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "this case is not about emotion. It is about records." That was the moment Marcus shifted in his chair. Crowe began with the apartment. He presented my inheritance. The exact amount. The date it entered Marcus's account. The transfer to the developer. Every number aligned. Marcus's lawyer tried to interrupt. Crowe didn't stop. Then came the mortgage payments. Month after month, every payment originated from my account before passing through Marcus's hands. The room grew quieter. Crowe moved on to the spending. Flights. Hotels. Jewelry. Elena's posture stiffened. Crowe placed a printed photo on the table. A gold bracelet. Blue stone. On Elena's wrist. Time-stamped the same night the receipt was issued. Marcus's face drained of color. Then came the gambling. Crowe laid out the transfers carefully. Thousands at a time. Always after bonuses. Always disappearing. The judge leaned forward. "What you are seeing," Crowe continued, "is not poor judgment. It is a pattern of financial abuse and dissipation of marital assets." Marcus's attorney sat down. There was nothing left to say. Crowe finished by presenting discrepancies in Marcus's reported income. Payments routed through third parties. Funds never disclosed. Marcus stared at me then. Not angry. Afraid. The judge called for a recess. As everyone stood, Marcus finally leaned toward me. "What did you do?" he whispered. I closed my folder and met his eyes. "I paid attention," I said. "Nothing more. Nothing less." When the judge returned, the room felt smaller. Her ruling was precise. Unemotional. Final. The apartment was recognized as my separate property. Marcus was ordered to reimburse me for dissipated assets. The debts stayed with him. Each sentence narrowed his future. I didn't smile. I breathed. Outside the courtroom, Elena was waiting. Her expression shifted the moment she saw Marcus's face. "Did we win?" she asked. He shook his head. Her smile vanished. "You said there was money," she snapped. "You said we'd be fine." Marcus had no answer. She walked away without looking back. Minutes later, Marcus's phone rang. His company. The investigation had already begun. By the time he left the courthouse, he no longer had a job or the future he'd planned. I walked past him without stopping. Some endings don't need words. I didn't rush away from the courthouse. I stepped outside slowly, letting the cool air settle against my skin. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, but it didn't feel oppressive anymore. It felt open. For the first time in months, my chest wasn't tight. Leonard Crowe joined me on the steps. He didn't congratulate me. He didn't smile broadly. He simply extended his hand. "You handled yourself well," he said. "Most people let emotion sabotage their case. You let truth do the work." I shook his hand. "Numbers don't lie," I replied. "People do." He nodded once, as if that explained everything. I walked to my car alone. Not lonely. Alone in the way that finally felt like ownership. The apartment felt different when I unlocked the door that evening. Not because anything had changed physically. The furniture was the same. The walls were the same. But the silence inside it belonged to me now. No more waiting for footsteps in the hallway. No more pretending not to notice lies. I walked through each room slowly, as if seeing it for the first time. The kitchen where I had cooked meals for a man who took credit for everything. the bedroom where I had slept beside someone who was already gone long before I realized it. I opened the windows, let the air move. Then I sat at the dining table, the same place where this had all begun, and closed my laptop. For the first time, there was nothing left to calculate. Marcus tried to call me 3 times that night. I didn't answer. The 4th call went to voicemail. I deleted it without listening. Some conversations don't deserve a response. Over the following weeks, the truth continued doing its work without my involvement. Marcus's company placed him on indefinite leave. Investigations have a way of spreading quietly. Accounts were frozen. Lawyers replaced excuses. The man who once stood in a courthouse hallway promising to take everything from me couldn't even access his own money. Elena disappeared from his life just as quickly as she had entered it. That part didn't surprise me. People who are attracted to stolen futures rarely stay when the bill comes due. One afternoon, I found myself standing in the living room, sunlight cutting across the floor, and I realized something important. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger burns hot, but it burns out. What I felt instead was clarity. Marcus had wanted freedom without responsibility. He got exactly that. I had wanted fairness. I earned it. People often imagine revenge as something loud. Screaming. Public humiliation. Destruction. But real revenge is quieter than that. It's preparation. It's patience. It's staying calm long enough to let the truth speak when it matters most. I didn't destroy Marcus. I stepped aside and let his own actions do the work. Weeks later, I ran into someone we used to know, a mutual acquaintance who looked at me with wide eyes. "I heard what happened," she said carefully. "You must have been devastated." I smiled. "No," I replied. "I was underestimated. There's a difference. At night now, I sleep deeply. No calculating. No listening for lies. No second-guessing my instincts. The apartment is quiet, but it's not empty. It's peaceful. And peace, I've learned, is expensive. Only the prepared can afford it. If there's one thing I want people to understand, it's this. Quiet strength is still strength. Paying attention is power. And patience, real patience, wins more battles than rage ever will. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like it and share it. Someone out there may need to hear that staying calm doesn't mean staying weak. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. And if you want more stories about people who took their power back, subscribe. Because sometimes the strongest move isn't fighting louder. It's staying steady until the final balance is settled.